I'm going to be talking to you both about how you get ill. This is from a Reiki point of view, and also about a word called byosen, which I was mentioning last week. Let's start off by saying, asking the question, what is byosen? That might be a good basis, actually. So we've got two elements. We've got in Reiki there is Reiki and there is byosen. Reiki is the energy which flows through us, that gets channeled through us, and when we place our hands on a person or an object, we are passing that through. But what we feel and experience is the byosen. So that is why the person receiving might not feel exactly the same thing as you, because you are feeling the byosen. But byosen is actually blockages within the body. You'll find it comes from Japan, the word, although you won't find it in any dictionary at all. It's only used in Reiki context. So if you look it up, the nearest you'll find is a word called byoki. And byoki means illness. That's the nearest word you've got there. So byosen is point or area of illness or blockage. It can even mean tension. Tension is also a sign of stagnated chi, or ki in the Japanese word for chi. So it comes in many forms. So of course if you've got a blockage, it's not going to move, and that's where you'll find it will build up, and the more it builds up, the more Reiki is needed. So what you feel in your hands is the Reiki which is getting channeled through your hands, and the sensations you'll feel as different manifestations will be as a result of the amount of Reiki needed in that area. The byosen, it moves. So it starts from the kidneys, right here. And the kidneys is an area which filters all the toxins within our body. We urinate it out. It kind of starts, our body is amazing. We've got the lymphatic system with lots of lymph nodes, the major lymph nodes, sort of here, there's some down here, there's some under the knees, the elbows, sort of around under the armpits. There's lots of them all around the body, and we've got some just up here and here and here. They also help with the removal of toxins. Kind of works through the bloodstream, and then it eventually gets dispersed off. So we've got these two elements working together. So if we have too much toxins, they've got to deposit to different areas. So what happens is it starts off from the kidneys, as I said earlier, and it will move. So generally speaking, it kind of goes up to here. So you might find people with lots of tension and problems just behind, so I'm one of these few people that can do this, just behind between the shoulder blades, scapula. And it will move up here and rounds the skull, and it kind of deposits in equal places throughout the whole of the body. It will go to joints, it will go to organs, and what happens is it stops, the organs will stop vibrating at the right frequency, so you will have to compensate for this, and this is where we get illnesses within these particular areas. And you'll find that they go equally. So you might have people with problems with one joint, but then have problems with another, and also vice versa in areas of the body. You'll find, actually, as it tries to filter its way out, I've noticed also you've got to think about the digestive organs as well, because if there's a blockage there, it can also have an effect as well. When you're looking and scanning, look at the actual whole area and look in the digestive organs, because if there's problems and blockages, you might find it's because the chi is not moving around the body properly, because there's basically it's stuck, and I mean as in constipation, etc. So what happens within our digestive system reflects so many other elements as well. And our body is amazing because it keeps us going, and what you'll find with the body is it's interesting. It's like, this is the analogy that was taught to me. It's like you're, imagine that you, each week we have our rubbish taken away, and one day they have a person off sick, so they can't take as many bins as they normally do, so they will leave one or two, just so they can still get rid of the rubbish, but then they leave it there. And these are like the deposits of the byosen within the whole of the body, so that it will just stick in certain areas, and our job is basically to get rid of it. That's the idea of Reiki, is basically to remove these toxins. Now, remember the technique I showed you at the end, the Hanshin Kaketsu Ho, which I'm going to teach you in the afternoon? That's one of the techniques to help right at the end. It doesn't just ground, it helps move everything within the bloodstream, blood system. It's called blood cleansing or blood circulation technique, and it helps with that at the end. That's why you do it. So the last point also does it as well, which is great. There's other things to take into consideration as well. Now, last week I asked you both to let me know what sensations you were feeling in your hands. I think you mentioned every single one of them. So what I'm going to do, this is where this comes in. It's blank at the moment. I'm going to just make up a little table. I'll ask you to say the different sensations, and I'll put them in an order. And there is in fact 5 levels, although there's a few extra sensations which show different intensities within it. So let's get a different colour, just to be exciting. Yeah. Does everything that I've said so far make sense, and do you have any questions?
The only question is that you've taught us to do Reiki on ourselves.
Yes.
But we can't do that last bit on ourselves, can we?
You can't, that's very true.
Is there a way of doing that on ourselves?
There isn't. The best thing to do is to actually do the Hatsule Ho, because you're actually moving everything with through your breath, and also you're kind of getting rid of everything like this. Through the dry brushing, because that is basically almost what you're doing on the back, is you're trying to get rid of it, and you are basically moving it. One of the ways you can actually move things within your body is to actually get up and go for a walk as well, or do some form of exercise, because by doing that you're moving the chi. You need to be able to get the blood moving and everything moving, and that's one way to deal with it, is to do that. So don't worry about the fact you can't do something. You've got the energy flowing through you all the time. It's just being aware and basically doing all the techniques that I've shown you, and that will help. That's why you do it in the first place, to keep yourself clean, and that's what we're trying to do with other people, is bring them back to ease, as we were saying earlier. So with my green pen, I'm going to write down different sensations, and then I'll explain them afterwards. So name the sensation you felt last week.
Pulse.
Pulse, okay. Pulse goes into this one here, also known as hibiki. Oh, I can't spell pulse. Oh no, yeah, I'll just do that. Hang on. I could spell pulse, I just put the wrong things. Or hibiki.
Is that the Japanese word?
Yes. But hibiki can also refer to any sensations, but in this context It's just referring to the pulse. So anything else?
Swirling in palms.
Swirling. Oh, that's something else. I'll write this here.
Oh.
That's all right. There are other sensations, but that's the energy moving round in your hands.
Okay.
It's very, very good to be aware of that because the speed will tell you a lot. I'll go into that in detail later. Please remind me and I'll talk about that. Okay. Heat, yes. There's two heats. There's a warmth and there's an intense heat. Warmth is just slightly warmer than body heat, and intense heat is really hot. Okay, anything else?
Stroking. I felt stroking on.
Kind of
I know exactly what you mean.
It's
Yeah.
like someone with like that.
It's like somebody's just sort of touching your finger. It's like it's inside, and it's like it moves up with like almost like a tickle.
Oh, like a tingling sensation?
Like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a tingling?
It's just like that, like as if there's the feeling as if somebody's
Doing a nail like your finger.
no.
I haven't experienced that one, but that's an
But we
interesting
both
one.
did. We both did.
Tickling.
But it could.
I like that.
It is. It's like just like that, like you,
Like a tickle.
and that is how it feels, like a nail just running up your
I call
side.
it pins and needles.
Yes.
Maybe it's like that, but it's just an intense.
Maybe we're not interpreting what we're feeling.
That's all right. No, it's good to get your own language. So don't worry about what it's called. As long as you know what it is, it doesn't matter. So tingling on pins and needles. I'm leaving enough room for one underneath that. Tingling.
What else have we got?
There's
Cold, is there cold?
cold. Yes, cold
Yeah,
is
I felt cold on the knees.
coldness is like the next level you experience on the next part after pulsing. So I need to add a little bit of a gap here and put cold. That is a thing. There's only two more. But if you don't know them, I'll tell you.
When I put my hands on that lady, the second lady,
Yes.
because first thing calm, did she? I felt like almost like a pain
Yes.
in my
Pain. Yes. Pain or cramping.
yeah. It was like if I stayed there, it would have turned into cramp. So it was these two fingers, and they were uncomfortable. You know, I felt like I wanted to kind of rub them.
Yeah, it is very painful. I got it yesterday when I was working, and I got it during the Reiki share as well. I got it. It comes. That is the most intense of them all. There's only one more, and it's one extra level between the tingling. I think one of you did experience this last week, and that is numbness.
Yes, we did, didn't we?
So,
We did feel.
this is the order of intensity. I'm just going to do this as well. Just the camera. There, like that. I'm just going to hold it up long enough. So, the first level is warmth. Then it's intense heat. Then it's a tingling. Then the next, like within the level, when it gets worse, you feel the numbness. It's almost what happens anyway after tingling. I have problems with pins and needles, and that's what normally happens. And then it's the pulsation. Then, as the intensity gets worse, it will go from pulsing to coldness. And then from coldness, you'll then feel pain or a cramping. That is the order.
Is that in here?
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
I need to write that down.
I'm just going to put this red line along here. From 1 and 2 are on the right side of actually being healthy. So if you feel this, still carry on giving them Reiki. means there's still a blockage there. It's just on the early signs. But then if you feel tingling, numbness, pulse, coldness or pain, and yeah, the pain it won't harm you at all. It might even, some of these might even go up the shoulder. The first time this ever happened to me was only a few weeks after doing level 2, and I just took my hand off and ended up shaking it. I didn't know what to do at all. And then I asked my Reiki teacher, and she didn't know. She never experienced that before. And then a few years later, when I found out this system, I realised what it was all about. But if that ever happens and it's too much, just take your hand off, shake it, and just sort of stroke it. Just take it away. But it's there to tell you what's happening. So this happens in severe cases. So if the fact you experienced it with that person on Thursday last week, wasn't it? Yeah. I won't tell you why, but that was very true to the case, and I experienced it when I gave him some treatments as well. So that's very much spot on. So that's the order, but they can fluctuate. So it can start off at a level, and it will move up, and it might just go down. It normally starts and actually goes down, and then it'll go up again, and it'll go up again. But then each time it gets a little bit lower. So it kind of moves like that over the period. We're going to do some graphs in the afternoon, just so you can get an idea. So you might feel it, and it might just disappear for a bit, and then the sensation will come back, or it will just lower, and you think, oh, that's good, it's better. But then all you're doing is you're experiencing the Reiki flowing through, and the byosen sort of shifting and moving. But then it will obviously revert back to a certain level. But you might notice by the end of the hour that it will go down to a lower level than what it was from when you started. So you can see a nice progression. I won't get you to do graphs in real life, this is just to give you an idea. But there's a way that you can actually enable the treatment to come out more. So what happens is if you work on the head down to the shoulders, really, I think you're probably best including the heart in this as well. Because you're working on the soul level, you're allowing the byosen to come up to the surface. So if you're doing an hour treatment, I would say work on the head and shoulders for the first 20 minutes. If you do an hour and a half, which is, I would say I would recommend more, do it for about half an hour or maybe even 40 minutes, but it just depends on the person. Also depends on what you are feeling. If you realise that actually this person needs a lot of work on their head because of what you can feel, you stay on their head. They might need a lot, it just depends on that particular position. So that's why I suggest, and you'll see it in there, it's work on the body afterwards. So there's a few ways you can actually do the body scanning, which I'm going to show you a little bit later on. Do you have any questions? Because I'm just giving you a lot of information.
What about with the man when I felt tightness in my own chest?
Well, that is interesting. You are feeling his byosen.
Yeah.
So
because I did my mum at the weekend as well, and she's got blocked ears and sinus problems, and I got ringing in my ears and a blocked ear, but not like if I had it myself, but just... Yeah,
that's you feeling their energy. If it happens in everyday life, your best bet is just to say thank you for letting me know, but right now is not a good time.
No, I've never noticed it before.
Only since doing this. If it only happens in this situation, then that's good. Some people could be so sensitive it can happen, like just when they're wandering around, it can become quite overwhelming. But the best thing to do is just keep yourself strong. Again, just do the Hatsu Lei Ho. Afterwards, if you're still experiencing the sensation, just do Kenyoku and go for a walk. Try and get yourself in a different state of mind, and it should go. It's the best thing to do. Yeah, but it's interesting. It's another tool you can use, and these things come. They come when they are needed. Some days you will experience it, some days you won't. I kind of go with it. And sometimes also it might be mirrored, but the thing is you need to work on both sides anyway, equally. So that's why each of the hand positions I've shown you, they're kind of on both equal, or if we were doing it together, I'd say I'll do this side and you do that side, just to allow there to be some some continuity. But also the issue is you might think on one side you can't feel anything, yet you still need to do it. Just keep your hands there. You also might find, now you don't also always have to work intuitively. You can, if the person says this is my problem, just place your hands there. That's all you have to do. Just place your hands there and just follow the same principle. But I mean that's one method. The other thing is do still scan the body and check. Don't worry, we will be doing byosen scanning. It's very, very simple, and you've kind of done it already.